the dark where the strange things flicker, Jennifer Hicks takes you in a little deeper.
Cryptids, UFOs, stories that chill, the truth's out there, and she's got the thrill. Welcome to Creepy Culture,
where the unknown comes alive.
Hey, it's Jen. Welcome to Creepy Culture. Thank you so much for being here. And tonight I have Mike Miller, and he is the co-founder of the Ohio Night Stalkers here in my area of Ohio, which is the south western part of Ohio. But I think he goes all over Ohio. But let's welcome Mike on. Just a second. There.
Hello,
Hi, Mike.
John.
I'm good. I'm so happy to have you on finally, because I know we've been chatting for a while. So you go all over Ohio or just our area? Like
Our area, and then, but the most point of focus is probably like southeastern Ohio, down toward Adams County, Scioto County, down that way toward Portsmouth, Shawnee State Forest area. Yeah.
Okay. I knew you went down there, but I wasn't sure where else you went. But yeah, you go ahead and just tell us about your research, and we can get to those clips that you sent me so we can listen to those too. Okay.
Yeah. Anyway, we frequent that area. It started probably a good 12, 13 years ago. Mike Feltner and I went down in there and follow the coattails of some BFR RO reports into that area, and I got a hold of a local map, and noticed this road that dead ended into a graveyard of all things. But we kind of went into that area, and there's just a ton of areas down there that are really creepy, and we drive them during the day to see how woolly they look, because if they're really woolly and hard to get into for people, then we're thinking, hey, they're probably going to be here, especially if there's a water source and stuff nearby. And that's basically, we have a topographical map now, but basically kind of, that's how we pick our areas. But we've been researching there for that long, and we've just had things happen. Mike and I and his son Jordan, I want to take his head off. I wore this for the Snowmageddon, since we set a record for snowfall.
We did.
Yeah, and anyone out there, start opening bid, $300
for some bread.
All proceeds go to us. But anyway, I'll split it with you. But anyway, no joking aside, we've been hitting that area. We had stuff happen. Mike Jordan and I were on a TV show called Tear in the Woods. It's also called These Woods Are Haunted on another network, but based on the stuff that happened in that area. So we kept going to that area over the years, and we found some areas within probably 5 to 10 miles, by the way the crow would fly, over by there, and these things are there, and they're not going anywhere. I used to think maybe, Bigfoot migrated. I wasn't sure, I don't think there's any experts in this field. I surely am not one. I think the closest thing we have to that would be Bob Gimlin and Dr. Jeff Meldrum, who we don't have anymore. But
I know.
And we've had stuff happen in that area also, in these other areas, and there's just not a lot of people there. These areas are hard to get into, and we found out through a mutual friend, Donna, that
Yes.
There is quite a lot of caves there. And cave systems. Some of those cave systems were big enough, and they were used during the, when they were smuggling the slaves to freedom. So Bigfoot doesn't have to leave Ohio and go to Florida when the weather gets bad and go hang out with his swamp ape cousins there. He can just go down in them caves and he'll be just fine.
Yeah. Donna was talking about the cave systems down there too. I just love Donna.
Oh yeah. And that's why a lot of the roads down there that are wearing away, that's not all just washouts where the water comes down those steep hills. Some of that is happening from underneath because of the caves.
Yep.
But you put all that together. You put caves. You put there's a lot of springs in that area, in the areas we go to, where even in the summer, like when a lot of the creeks dry up, there's certain areas we know where the water isn't dried up and it's fresh water. It's moving. It's running, because animals are not, or creatures aren't going to go to a stagnant lake or pond and drink out of that unless they have to. They want fresh moving water. But they're there. They're in this area, and we've been blessed, and we've picked some good areas. We've had stuff continue to happen, not all the time, but over the years we've had enough stuff happen to keep going back.
Absolutely.
And as the audio evidence has expanded over these years, that is proof that things have happened. And I know, evidence can be manufactured, and especially with AI and all that crap now. I hate all that.
Hate it.
Same here. But our stuff, we were able to meet, not meet personally, but through the internet and through a podcast like this. We were able to meet David Ellis from Washington State, and he's a professional sound analyst, and he analyzes audio for the police and fire department. And he analyzed a lot of the stuff, and he told us when things were a coyote, or when something was an owl or some other kind of crazy bird or something. But the ones that you're going to hear, those aren't any of that. They aren't a person pretending to be something. He could not classify them as Bigfoot, as Bigfoot has not been officially certified. But what he could say is that we have recorded no known animal in North America, and that some of these screams peg higher than a baboon on the spectrograph. And that is evidence. That's from Ohio. It's not coming from freaking Amazon jungle,
True story. So the audio that we're going to play, did you want to tell where, about it? You don't have to tell where, but
Right. I'll probably have to hear it, then I can explain what we're.
Oh, okay. Let's do that. Okay, what about that one?
Okay. I just see a blank screen. Can you still see me?
Yeah, I can see it. Mm-hmm.
Okay, good. As long as it's working. That was from September of 25 of this past year. We were in an area near a cornfield. It's a huge wooded area that comes out, and there is a cornfield in that area. And then the cat, of course, Luna's going to steal the show here. We recorded that after call blasting coyotes, howling, screaming, whatever. And then we waited a little bit longer. Then we call blasted a single coyote call and got another response. And I was afraid. I didn't know we have permission to be in that area. Could there have been someone out along the cornfield and they just decided to play with us or whatever? I was worried about that, because you got to take all angles in consideration, because you want to flesh out the truth, But I sent all that to David Ellis, and he said that is not a human being making those calls, those whoops. And the first and third one you hear are the same creature. The second one is a different individual, but they're not human. So
there's two of them.
There's two of them in that.
Okay. And we'll do the next one. That was wild.
that was near that other area, kind of by a few miles, but that's back in an area we just gained access to back in 24.
Mm.
That was Memorial Day weekend, 2024. We were back in that area. It's a very creepy area. There's like a lot of valleys that kind of dump down into this place. It's like it's been off limits. It's been gated off for 30, 40 years. Um, anyway, we went back in there. We always sit and talk in the dark, no lights on for 30, 40 minutes. Nothing happened. We called blasted a wolf howling and did not get a response. And then we called blasted wolves howling. Excuse me. We did get a reply on just the wolf howling. But that was the reply you heard. And what I think happened there is I I don't know what's going on in the front of that recording. There's coyotes and there's something else making a noise, but that big one that comes in very strong. To me, that is Big Daddy answering the wolves, saying, "Hey, you're in my yard." That thing is mad, and when that thing is howling, that howl goes from a woo, and it changes to an ah. You can actually hear the change in the pitch, and yeah, that thing's mad. It's not happy.
Yeah, you could tell the difference between the coyote and that. Definitely. Okay, let's do the next one. That was some stuff there.
Yeah, let me explain on that. That's looped and it repeats. That's what David Ellis does when he analyzes something. Um, if you can hear, I don't think you have the original of that, but the original, the coyotes are right up there with it, but you can tell the difference. But he's backed the coyotes off, believe it or not, in that, and he's looped it. It repeats 3 times. David does that so you can hear the subject better. But that was October 11th, 2014. That was during that night that put us on the TV show. And that was in an area we call the bridge. There's a little metal bridge there. And that thing went off. And it didn't dawn on us that night that because where we went into the graveyard, that's one way in, one way out. And as we're heading out, we stopped at that bridge. These things were following us and getting closer each time we stopped. And it didn't really, we weren't really cognizant of that, but that's what was happening. But that's where that came from, and that is one of the first ones that David said pegged higher than a baboon on a spectrograph. That's right there.
Mm-hmm. You can definitely tell. That was a good one.
Oh yes,
sure.
Could be the best one we've ever recorded. Actually,
it was good. I think there's another one too. That was good.
That happened before the bridge. That was actually at the graveyard. That's like the second part of the graveyard recording. That thing's howling, it's screaming, and it's changing. If you listen to the thing doing the elongated woo, it goes from a woo to an ah, where the coyotes are in the background yipping the whole time like a coyote does.
Yeah.
That's 2 different things. And then at the end of that, that creature is actually mimicking the coyotes. He starts going whoop, whoop, whoop. He's mimicking them.
Mm-hmm.
Unfortunately, Mike and I are talking during that because we had never had that much stuff happen ever. So adrenaline was through the roof for both of us. And instead of just being quiet and just recording, we're talking back and forth. So,
When they make screams or yells, they're terrifying. I've heard it one time, and it was scary. So I wouldn't even be able to sit there. If I heard that, I'd have been gone. So,
yeah. And the TV show had us. Sorry, the TV show had us with the flashlights and all that. No, we are there, and we're in pitch darkness. We have no light on at all. So, I want
that's terrifying.
to make sure people know that when we're at these places and the S is hitting the fan, we're standing there in the dark. There's no light on.
That's terrifying because you don't even know if there's one standing by you or not. They travel in groups, so
yep.
You could have two of them standing by you and not even know it.
Well, that's true.
Mm-hmm. I think there's another one too, or not? Yeah, there is.
Wait, can you say further? Oh shit! They don't like that. All right. What was that? That was a rocket rolling. Was that you?
Did you see anything?
Nope. I know it's it hit the ground and rolled.
Through a rock?
Yeah, that's about 3-4 years ago. That's an area within 5 miles of those other areas. We think at that time, because we had driven back in this spot for a few years and nothing really seemed out of place. Just, looked like a wooded area. I think we went there a couple times. Nothing really happened. And we just kind of didn't go back there. But then when we went back in there that year, this is the year of COVID, by the way, and we went back in there. We had seen some trees pushed down and some markers that weren't there before. There was a row of these trees. I should have sent you that picture. And they were probably, I don't know, maybe almost a foot around, foot in diameter. And there's like 4 or 5 of them. But like the one tree in the middle was bent over this way, all the way down into the ground. And it's like, if a storm is going to do that, it's going to wipe all the trees out, not the one in the middle. Kind of odd. But anyway, we've seen enough weird kind of looking things that we started going back in there. And that's the first year Cody had got his call blaster. And we had parked back in that area, spoke for about 40 minutes, normal voice in the dark, nothing happened. We call blasted the wolf howling. Nothing happened. We call blasted wolves howling. At that point, we got something in distress up on the ridge coming across towards us and down. And then it just stopped. And as it cried out, I don't think you have that one. To me, it sounds like a gibbon monkey kind of a sound. And then all of a sudden it stopped. And about 20-some minutes later, they started pounding us with rocks. And we've had rocks thrown before. It's always been more of a throw it in your vicinity to say, hey, you need to think about getting the hell out of here kind of thing. Mm-hmm. But at that time, they got pissed that we freaking scared their little one. This is just my opinion. And they threw to hit. They cracked Mike's windshield. They didn't Jeep. They were mad. And that was one of those. We went back there 3 weekends in a row, but not weekend to weekend. It was like went, took a week or 2 off, then went back, kind of spaced it out. But that was on one of those trips we went back in there. I literally just whistled and went up an octave on each whistle, and they weren't happy, and they fired a rock, and it hit my Jeep at the side window and scuffed it. It was I literally, those nights we were there, I was sitting there thinking, man, I need to wear a damn football helmet because I'm going to take one off the freaking noggin here any minute.
Right.
And Mike's wife had went. She had went a few times before, but more of a guest appearance. But she kind of went. She was bored. Everybody. Things were going on back then with COVID. But and she was quite skeptical. But the rock throwing nights, that kind of freaked her out. And because it pretty much boils it down to, deer and raccoons and bears and, tree frogs can't throw rocks.
They have to have a hand.
Two different things on this planet, and that's humans or one of them. And we were so far back in the woods, no one else is out there. We don't say, hey, we're going to be in this area, blah, 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 on this date.
Mm-hmm.
None of that, And some of the people I work with, I work at UPS, and they, oh, that's just teenagers messing with you. And I'm like, you don't understand this. This area is so treacherous. It's hard to maneuver and unsafe to maneuver during the day when you can see hike or anything else. And you mean to tell me in the middle of the night, 1, 2 in the morning, that people are going to sneak up on us to throw rocks and walk through the woods with no light on? That ain't going to happen. And then half of them carrying. So wouldn't be a good idea.
That'd be very dangerous for somebody to be creeping up on somebody in the dark in the woods with no light. You probably end up getting shot.
But the thing is, the terrain is so bad there, you would kill yourself just doing that.
Exactly, too, because you just don't even know. There's some parts of Ohio has little cliffs and stuff you can walk off of. Yep, so you need to be really careful. Okay, we'll do the next one.
That's from probably, I don't know, 8, 9 years ago. That's more than one individual there that's screaming. I will kind of tell maybe a little bit more about that area. That's over near, I don't know if you've heard of Peach Mountain, and out that way, GE test facility, engine facility. The original recording that is so faint, I could hear it with headphones on. Really couldn't hear it that well, just playing it as is. And I almost erased it, but I sent it to David Ellis anyway. And David Ellis has got he's like Batman. He's got the toys. He was able to pull that forward. And thank God I didn't erase it, because that's one of our better ones. I mean, it's clear, there's some kind of communication going on there.
Yeah, you could tell there was 2 different tones.
If David can see it, we can only kind of see it or hear it on one plane. That's our ears. Where David's got the spectrograph, and even if it doesn't register, or if it's such a distant sound, he can still see the graph pop up and know there's something else there, which is kind of neat. This don't, I don't have that kind of equipment. I'm thankful, blessed to get what we get, but
Right. All right, we'll do the next one.
That is actually part of the bridge one that you played earlier, the one that's the baboon. That's just kind of a different version. It's not the whole recording. But what David did there is he tried to show spatially where the one sound is and where the coyotes were, where it kind of almost trying to paint a picture in your mind. Hey, this is where this is, and then this is here, with a special kind of filter on it to,
That one, man, they sound weird sometimes, don't they?
Well, that's probably the effect of the filter, but and he's kind of slowed that down. He's trying to show the difference in the you know.
Yep. Okay, we'll do the next one. Is that looped?
Yes, it's looped 3 times. David did that one. What's important about that one, we call that recording ooh ah ooh, because basically that's what that thing is saying. What's coming out of its mouth, it's going ooh ah ooh. I mean, you can hear it with
Definitely.
your own ears.
I was going to say, it sounds like it's talking.
Yeah, what David is doing, he is putting together audio from all over the United States. I'm not sure if other countries or not are involved, but anything that has that talking, speaking kind of component to them, he is doing them separately in a folder, and he's putting all those together. And he's going to try to maybe do a Bigfoot Rosetta Stone kind of a thing, maybe.
Mm-hmm.
But he's at least taking the ones that have a talking speech type of a thing to them, and he's going to put them all together, which is really fascinating.
It is. That is cool. But you could definitely hear that, like it was yelling and talking at the same time.
Yeah, and you got to be a primate to sound out vowel sounds. That's not a coyote. That's not a dog. That's not a freaking raccoon or a cougar or whatever, you know.
Definitely not. Absolutely not. We don't even have half that stuff in Ohio anyway. So we'll go ahead with the next one. Wow.
Yeah, there's more than one there, and they got
Mm-hmm.
close. And I remember that we got the hell out of there after that recording, because it was just like we didn't know what was going on.
Right.
But we got spooked. We got out of there.
I don't blame you, because it's terrifying enough. Just, I don't think I could sit there while they were yelling. I'd be hightailing it. So,
And I don't know if you noticed in that, besides the ones that are prominent, that are deeper and more substance to them, there's one in the background that's doing it's almost like it's a, what do you call that? A chorus,
yeah.
Here you've got 2 individuals with stronger pitches, slightly different, but there's another one in there, and they're doing the
Mm-hmm.
the more melodic, lighter background. It's a howl, but it's light, and it's a higher pitch. I don't know if you hear that or not, but that's what kind of freaked me out, because I didn't know what in the hell was going on there.
I know. It's hard telling what.
But on your own, put headphones on and listen to that, and try and blot out the 2 that are prominent, and listen in the background.
Okay. I will do that. That I could hear. It sounded like there's definitely more than one in that last one. So that might be what I was hearing, because I could hear something besides the prominent one in the front. You could hear something else definitely on that.
It's almost like that one is like, well, I'll sing the lighter chords or something. It's like
it is like they're in choir,
or it's a female. I don't know, but it's just, yeah, that was kind of wild.
It is, and I really love the one that sounded like it was talking. Like, that was so cool that you captured that you were able to capture that, because usually they just yell, like. So I think it's really rare for somebody to capture one yelling where it's making a vowel sounds like that.
Yep. Yep.
Mm-hmm. So that was really cool that you got that. Where
was
was that at?
That was Adams, Ohio.
Adams County.
Yeah, I am really looking forward to when David finishes that. I'm not sure when that'll be, but that part of his research with the vocalizations, with the speech aspect of it, that'll be very interesting. To
Absolutely.
what he has. Yeah.
That'd be really cool. Have you seen one? Have you?
Yes, that happened in October of 24, actually, where I can actually say that happened. And I know it sounds crazy because I know people that are on the fence or don't believe are going to say, right away, and I don't talk about it a lot because of that. They're going to say, "Hey, yeah, you researched Bigfoot, and yeah, you seen one. How convenient, And here comes Luna, but no, Luna wasn't there. But it was in the area where the Angry Giant one that you played earlier.
Mhm.
It was there later in the year in October, and you can't play right now. Come on, baby, up there. But we were there in October. This was the last time Mike Feltner, he was with us before he retired. Cody was there. The McCoys were there. Donna was there. Sabrina was there. Jeff Byers from Illinois, who's the owner and a Preacher Replica guy that makes the cryptid action figures. He was there. But anyway, he's the scene stealer, Luna. You'll have the Luna show next.
It's fine. My cat's over here pawing my leg. I have to keep petting him.
Who wouldn't want to watch cats? I kind of like watching some of them reels, where they act goofy and all that. But anyway, we're there this October, and had a full moon that night, and we parked in this spot where there was a row of pine trees and these other trees, heavily wooded, and we were in a dark zone. And then there was like a field, a trail, and that was all in the moonlight. There was trees, and there was a heavily wooded section, to this direction. And Cody, Mike, and Jeff Byers went up that trail. And this thing was in that other wood line across probably 50 yards, maybe less, from where we were parked, and kind of sitting to see what would happen. And Mike always liked splitting up because they don't like that either. They don't know what the hell you're up to when you're doing something like that. You're not there, you have a fire going, you're drinking beer, you're not fishing, you're not hunting. Why are you here at 1 or 2 in the morning? They're trying to figure that out. But they went up that trail. This thing came out of the wood line, and we sat like in somewhat of a circle, but we're all facing a different direction. So we're watching 360. And this thing comes out of that wood line over there, and I see it. And at first I thought it was a bear because even at that distance, it had some size. And I thought, great, and it keeps coming out, and then it stands up.
Oh.
At that moment, I'm like, that's probably not a bear now. And I'm watching it. It doesn't see us. And I've had a hard time with this because, they're so in tune to their environment. I think this one made a little bit of a mistake. I don't think it seen us. We were just in that dark zone. It didn't do its due diligence to, flesh out its surroundings, because it was worried and watching and very intently focused on these 3 guys going up this trail. So it comes out. So because as they go up the trail, because of how the wood line, it's not straight. It's it's got to come out to watch them. And by coming out, it's now visible to those of us on the other side there, and it's watching those 3 guys. And I'm watching this, and my own brain, I'm having an argument with myself. Part of me is saying, that is not what you think it is. There's no way in hell it would come out that far. It wouldn't be that stupid. But then the other side of my brain was, hey, dumbass, there it is. Look. And it kept coming out. So it comes out from where it's in dark, comes out to where the moonlight hits it. And this is where it got really creepy for me. And I don't know how to explain this. When the moonlight hit it, it literally, it shimmered like, I don't want to say a disco ball, but it shimmered like that. The icicles you put on your Christmas tree at Christmas time, that shimmering, and it was
Mm-hmm.
blowing down it. And I'm like, and my brain is like, what the hell? Because it's not silver, and why is it looking like that? And I remember a TV show I watched a few years ago, and they talked about hair samples that had been found that were between human and ape, but they didn't have anything to compare it to. They were just unknown. But what was wild about these hairs is they're black, dark at the base, and as you go toward the tip of the hair, it's translucent at the tip, which means it's clear. I think that's how they blend in so well and disappear. I don't think they have a Romulan cloaking device. I think that's just how God made them and that nature made them, and they can stand next to something. They kind of absorb that color and they blend in like a chameleon. That's one of their things they can do. And because the silver moonlight was hitting the hairs, the tip of the hairs was glowing silver because I could see underneath was dark brown and dark. It wasn't silver all the way through. It was just tips of it. But at that moment, that was just like too much for my brain to kind of comprehend. So I stood up. I had been sitting down watching this, and I stood up. And when I stood up, the movement I made, it seen it, and it whips around, and we're looking at each other. And we're probably, I don't know, 25, 30 yards, if that, from each other, probably closer, and I stood there and I brought my hands out, because I've got I mean, I don't know. I mean, they probably assume everybody's got a gun, but I brought my hands out like this, like I got nothing in my hands, no weapon. And I'm just kind of standing there. And it looked at me. It looked back up that trail to see where those guys were. And then we're just like looking. And I'm afraid because I thought, man, this thing, if it charged me, I mean, you don't know.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Well, it doesn't give a damn about me. It just turns and it's not in a hurry. It's like it could care less. It just turns and goes back into the woods. And we had been over in that area during the day, so we knew what that kind of looked like over there. There was a huge tree right there that was out in front of before these other trees. But anyway, the front limb on that tree, the tree must have been hit with lightning. So there was a limb that was still attached barely, and it was hanging down like this. It looked like an elephant's trunk. So we call it the elephant tree. And because of that, and that limb is heavy. It's hanging down. It's a big limb. It pushed that out of the way like it was a twig, walked through there, and right before you go into that wood line, there's some trees down that have been there for a while. And it didn't step over them. And I think, this is just my opinion, it purposely stepped on those trees and crunched them, because I mean it was like crunch, and then into the woods and gone and quiet. But I think those last two steps were an exclamation point. It was that thing saying, "Hey, you don't want to follow me in here," which I had no damn inclination to do at all.
Nope,
none whatsoever. And I never thought about bringing my phone up and trying to take a picture. I stood there dumbfounded and excited and mesmerized and disbelief all at the same time.
I bet. I've heard about their hair absorbing light and that they shimmer. Even Donna said she calls it shimmering. And she said they're not disappear, they're there. So, that would explain what happened to me in the woods that I was telling you about too. Getting a rock thrown at me. And like I said about the rock too, you got to have hands to throw a rock.
Right.
So that kind of eliminates every other animal around because you have to have a hand to throw a rock. So it's either a human or one of those, like you said. So I think the day that happened to me was a sunny day. So I'm pretty sure it probably had sun on it and it was just so shimmered. I couldn't see it. So it was terrifying though. And I didn't even see it. So I couldn't imagine seeing one. I know that has to be like horrifying at first, shocking and all kinds of things.
Yeah, I still fight with it. It's still something I run through my brain to see if you know if anything's changed. But I seen what I seen,
Hmm.
and I think about back to other things. I've seen glimpses of things before, something that moves, and you go to look, and you might see a streak of brown, or you might see some type of movement, but because your eyes don't lock on it, I never really counted it. All I could tell is, hey, something's there. I don't know what the hell it is. It could be anything, kind of a
Right.
deal. But this was different, and kind of compare it to where George Taylor and I were hiking Cedars Creek during the daytime, of all things. In the fall, all the leaves are down. There's some in the trees. We're hiking this trail, and this deer was literally in front of this bush, and it freaking blended in so well. Even with me looking that direction, because this thing stood still, I didn't see it until I was like 2 feet from it. And
Oh.
and at that point, it decided, "Hey, you're just too damn close for me."
Hmm.
I still didn't see it until it burst out of there and took off like a bat out of hell, which scared me to death. I probably lost about 10 years off my life at that moment. But thank God it was just a deer and not something that was going to ambush me like a predator.
No doubt. I've
But,
walked up on a deer before, bedded down. It scared me to death when it jumped up. I was like, oh no.
and you think
So,
that's what it was.
mhm.
But yeah, that happened, and it still kind of bothered me, to tell you the truth.
I bet it does because, well, I haven't been hiking since I had a rock thrown at me by something that was invisible ish. So, um, and I didn't even see anything. So I can imagine how you're feeling because um, it's kind of traumatizing. I'm not even going to lie, at least in my case, and I didn't even see it. So I'm still traumatized by that.
I'm glad I seen the program that talked about the hair and the hairs being translucent at the tip, because that rushed back into my memory, and that kind of explained a lot of that. It made that kind of plausible for me,
Hmm.
because I don't know how my brain, with it glowing silver on the outside there for a little bit, the shimmer, I just don't know. I would have probably checked myself into an asylum or something, because, you know,
Yeah,
don't that's not supposed to happen, and I might alienate people here. I don't think the extraterrestrials bought these things here. I think they've been here the whole time. The Indians, they're in all their folklore and their story.
absolutely.
It's part of nature. They've been here the whole freaking time, and I don't think UFOs brought them. And but yeah, but I'm glad I seen that show, because that kind of helps me kind of sleep at night.
Right. And I do agree with you on that because the oral history and natives, they're not telling that stuff to be scaring somebody around a campfire. They're telling you that stuff for survival. So, yeah, it's it's been in all their oral history for generations. So, I agree with you. I think they've been here for forever.
Well, Leif Erikson wrote about them. I mean, so there's
Mhm.
there's documentation way back.
Absolutely, it
And it's
does go
before,
way back.
yeah, it's before PG film, and it's you know, which it would have to be. There would have to be something going on before that. They just didn't show up in 19
Mm-mm.
that happened.
Yeah, when they coined the word Bigfoot, no, they've been around way longer,
Yep,
forever. I agree with that. So, I live close to you,
yep,
so I want to
yep.
talk about.
Hit these spots
Big,
over here in around Eaton. Yeah,
mhm. Let's talk about Bigfoot between my little rock throwing incident in your house between Montgomery and Preble County. So, do you have any like reports that you've gotten where somebody's called you about them?
there's a guy writing a book about Preble County in this area right now. I'm not going to give his name because I don't think he's got it done yet, but I know a little bit about it only because of my son Noah. His mom grew up here, and she remembers back in the '70s there was a Bigfoot flap. It supposedly chased some teenagers by Roberts Covered Bridge, where the bridge was at that time in the late '70s. but she remembered that her dad was, rolling around town in the freaking shotguns and stuff in the truck. And,
Mm-hmm.
People took it very seriously. People fired at it, some farmers. And I had heard bits and pieces. I never could really figure out where it was until happenstance ran into a guy. His name's Dave Underwood. He's not with us anymore, but he lived back in that area, and wound up bumping into him by accident. And which is funny. Basically my son had a pee and he wasn't going to make it to his mom's, and I had to stop and pull over. And I pull over to Woolley area, and there he was. But anyway, maybe too much detail there, but.
No.
But I'm always thinking someone's going to think, well, how'd you meet him? How'd you meet him? Well, anyway, Dave worked for the orchard that used to be back in that area, and they sent him down because they seen the cop lights on the property. They wanted to know why the police were on their property. And he went down there that night, and he said those teenagers were still in the squad car, and they were hysterically frightened. They would not get out of the cop car. Cops didn't believe them. But the cops found tracks in Twin Creek. So Dave was kind of telling me what happened, where it happened, because before I had went up like consolidated roads on these other roads, trying to, think, did it happen here? Did it happen over here? Just kind of winging it. He's actually telling me where this happened. He showed me where the bridge used to be, all that. But here's what got me. We're talking, and then Dave goes, and I know when it walks the creek now. And I just looked dead at him, and I was like, I quit breathing there for a second. Uh-huh. He said, when it walks Twin Creek, he said all the bugs, like where he lived at the time, he pointed down the creek. He said, when it's down there, as it comes up, all the bugs down there stop. And then all the bugs out here stop. And as it comes up the creek, then everything in front of me, no noise. There's bug noise way up this way, but as it meanders that creek and goes up, the bugs stop making noise up this way, but everything back over here now where it's past, it comes back to life again. He said if the wind is blowing this way, he could smell it, and it doesn't smell too nice. And his dogs, he had like 6 dogs, I think, at the time. Every one of them, and these weren't like little, Taco Bell dogs or something, they went under the porch. They wanted no part of whatever the hell was walking that creek. They didn't want to go bark at it or, show their teeth. They went under the house. And just hearing that this thing was still walking that creek was very exciting. And I've tried to see where, I kind of think I know where this thing is going. It's kind of behind where the water plant is in town. And there's a couple other weird things they put like a new business in along 127, but there's a fence there, and I think they took that part of the fence out. But at one time, this was a very sturdy fence with barbed wire-ish stuff at the top, but it was bent from the inside out. So something was over in the wooded area and climbed that and bent that and stepped over that barbed wire to bend that fence out this way toward the road. You would think someone would break in or want to go into an area to see what was in it, that the fence would be bent into the wooded area, but this was on the inside and came out. This is kind of weird things you notice. And then you could still see there's a spot where there's like a cornfield that's down right now, but there's like an entranceway, and you see where something has took a tree and laid it across. It didn't do an X, but there is a freaking tree across right there. And I think that's a damn stay out marker.
It is.
I don't know how to get a hold of anyone. I'd love to find out who owned that. I'd love to go back and just look, even if it's right in that spot right there, to see if there's any tracks.
It's funny you said what you just said, because the day that I had that rock thrown at me,
yep,
it was in Germantown. Hiked there for 20 years, and I'm just going to say this: the week before, there was caution tape going off to the other trail, and I was going this way. But there was caution tape because there was a tree down across the trail. So I was like, I thought that for a second. You know what I mean? And the other thing about the fence, do you remember I was talking about Possum Creek, right?
Yeah.
And the dump being there? They just put a new fence up around the dump. Tell me why that fence is bowed in like this from the inside. Like,
Something was in there. They're going in there.
mhm.
They're going to go in there for a quick, easy meal. And it's not like someone's guarding the damn dump. You know what I'm saying? But yeah.
So I'm telling you, I'm going to take a picture of that because it didn't dawn on me. I've been commenting about it every time I drive by there to go to Possum Creek. I come up where the wastewater treatment plant is.
Yeah.
What, I don't know what that road is, but it comes out on Gettysburg, and the dump's right there. And then you just turn left and right, and you're at Possum Creek, right? Well, I've been commenting about the fence. I'm like, how in the world did they just put a brand new fence up around the dump, and the inside of it with barbed wire on top? It looks like something put their foot at the bottom of the pole, probably like a foot off the ground, and the whole post that holds the fence is pushed out from the inside. And it didn't even dawn on me that's what could be going on until you just said that about that fence.
Yeah, because I think
So.
there's bears have been spotted in different places. I think a bear is going to take the fence out. It's not going to just climb it. I think it's just going to,
Mhm.
kind of destroy it. But and I don't know if a bear, it'd be kind of odd for one of them to climb a fence like that and not rip out that barbed wire on top. You had to be a little bit more stealthy to do that. But yeah, this fence had that same look where something was over on the other side and came over. Because like right when you come into town on 127, you know where that sign is? It's got the arrow going to the left because the road jogs.
Yeah.
When I did a library lecture at the Eaton Library back, I think Mike was doing them then too, but I think that was 2018. There's a guy, he's no longer with us, but he was on his way to work in Greenville, and the car in front of him, this thing started to cross the road right there. He hit his brakes, went past that sign, hit his brakes again, and this guy seen it in the brake lights, and it was taller. It was 3-4 feet taller than that sign. And it crossed the road there, and right there where that sign is, that gravel road, it looks like an old gravel road. If you were able to drive down that, but you could, it's pretty gnarly. That's where Roberts Covered Bridge was back in there. That's the area, and that's learned behavior, so it's crossing there. And if you go across, they did some work there back late fall. I took some pictures, but there's a little bridge right there. I know there's a creek down there. All you see is kind of a lot of brush and thickets and some trees. It looked like something had jumped off of that roadway and just landed on that and let the trees and brush kind of catch it, and like a safety net, the way it was just like pushed down. And I thought, what the hell, and I thought, did a car go off of that bridge and land like that? But the guardrail hasn't been replaced. Never heard of any kind of an accident there. But if something was 700-800 pounds and jumped and was doing that and using that as a safety net, that could probably push that down. I know I'm kind of reaching for straws there, but there's something on in this area, and it's not always maybe in this area, but it's walking that freaking creek, that's for sure.
Twin Creek that runs into the Great Miami River, that Possum Creek connects to on the other side. And if you keep tracking back from Dayton towards your way, well, Twin Creek turns and it goes into 7 Mile Creek, which take you all the way up to Camden. I've been researching. You'd be proud of me. But can I show you the rest of those pictures? I only sent you one.
Yeah.
Okay. I'm going to show you these. And I'm going to talk while I'm doing it. But, well, they're not even on here. Crap. Is one of them on here? Hold on. Let me look. Okay. What does that say? I can't even see.
I can put my eyeballs on, even though they are prescription. I don't know.
I can't see what I'm looking at.
I'd have to,
Too little.
like pull it up.
Hold on, let me look at this one. This is Germantown Reserve. And see, no, this is Possum Creek. See the lake right here?
Yeah, yeah.
The dump is right across the street over here. This one cut it off. Let me see if this one's got it. No, but do you see how this is the thing about Ohio? Do you see all these cornfields?
Yep.
Okay. And you know how we have these little patches of green woods? You don't have to go 2 miles in the woods to find one of these things. I'm telling you, I really need to go get those footprints. And that's the same thing. I didn't know it was going to be this small when I did this, but these are the creeks. It was just showing Twin Creek and stuff like that. And this is down in Germantown. That's Twin Creek right there.
Yep.
A part of it, anyway. This is the other part of Twin Creek. It's not very deep. You can walk through it if you wanted to. And this is Possum Creek, where the lake is. And you see it's not very woodsy. And the other thing, let me see. Here's these things I wanted to show you too. And I can't even read them, so I didn't know they would be that small when I popped them up on here.
All right.
So, but I was going to say that I was just going to show you the creeks, how they're running between Montgomery County, Preble County, and up into Darke County. And I do believe from the BFRO sightings that are recorded, there's sightings on 127 up in Camden. And, the Devil's Backbone's up there.
Yep. And then
that little tiny park. And it even says right on their sign, it's notorious for Bigfoot sightings.
Well, there was also a Bigfoot sighting at the Boy Scout camp off of 127 back, whatever road that is, back in there.
So they're definitely running up 127 towards Camden, and that creek that runs into Devil's Backbone is 7 Mile Creek. And then when you come south from Camden back down 127, then you're running back into Twin Creek, which runs all the way from where you live, like West Alex. There was one on 503. There was a sighting on 503. Well, Twin Creek is right before that red light coming from Dayton up to West Alex. You cross Twin Creek. Twin Creek runs exactly where I had that rock thrown at me. I was walking along Twin Creek, basically, when I had that rock thrown at me.
Well,
so
yeah, they're moving around. They're not in one area. They're moving around. So if you're at that area when they're there at that time, you're lucky, really. They're using that.
Yeah. So Twin Creek, and then I wish, man, I don't know how in the world those didn't download, but it would probably be too little anyway to see them. But Possum Creek. Okay. I've been hiking there because I haven't been back to Germantown because of what happened to me there. I'm a little bit wigged out. Well, a whole lot of wigged out. So I've been hiking at Possum Creek. So 2 weeks ago when it was 60 degrees here, I was at Possum Creek and I'm walking and it's a little muddy and I'm not a Bigfoot researcher. I'm into it. I want to hear all about it. I know they're here for a fact. I'm just walking, just doing nothing, minding my business, enjoying the 60-degree weather. And I walked past a footprint. Didn't even pay attention. Walked a few more steps and I'm like, wait, those were toes. You know what I mean? Do a Yui, turn around, sure as crap. There's a 17-inch footprint that's 6 inches wide. It's a little over 6 inches wide. And, I took a picture of it. I sent it to Trisha from Monsters Unleashed. I'm like, look at this. And the next day I went back and I took a tape measure. That's how I know it's 17 inches. Well, I found a second one. I apparently skipped the one before the one I found. There was another one right behind it. And I believe it was the same, like the right foot. And the stride was 54 inches.
Oh, wow. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. So, and I only sent you the one picture. Did I send you all of them?
No, you sent me a group. Yes, you did.
Okay. So you've seen all those pictures. Okay.
Yeah.
So I'm like, if this is a Bigfoot track, which I believe it is, and you think it is, I was wondering, like, what in the world are they doing here? But then the dump's right across the street. And Possum Creek runs right there. Possum Creek runs out of Possum Creek Park, goes into the Great Miami, and from the Great Miami, that's where Twin Creek picks up. You know what I'm saying? So they're walking that whole waterway. And on those maps that are too small to see, you can clearly see where they can walk those waterways and go to where it correlates with all these BFRO sightings that are too small to read, which I wish they weren't. I wish I could make them bigger. You probably can. I just don't know how. But all the BFRO sightings that I had pulled up to show you, they all coincide with where these creeks are.
I'm
So
older
that
than
runs the
you.
creek.
I had to screenshot stuff sometime and then like, magnify it that way. But no, but they're going to hit that dump because there's been reports of that in other areas. And at this time of year, if you're hungry, you're going to, that's probably an easy place to maybe find something to eat because you're not going to really have anyone back there, especially, when the hours the dump isn't operating. And, probably nice and private and nobody really cares about anyone back at a dump.
I was shocked that, well, I was already shocked about Germantown. Okay.
Yep.
I'm more shocked about Possum Creek until I was standing there realizing the dump is right down the street. You know what I mean? Like right there. And then I was like, oh my gosh, they're following Possum Creek to come over here to go to the dump. Plus, there's deer and stuff, plentiful. But it just goes to show that you don't have to go deep in the woods to run into one of these things, and people need to be careful because
Yeah, I never thought of that. That never even dawned on me when I first started. I thought this was something you'd have to go way off the beaten path to,
right.
even get a glimpse, and or in that, close, not a glimpse. But no, they come a lot closer than you think out of necessity. And you mentioned Germantown a few years ago. A friend of mine, George Taylor from Minnesota, he went back to Minnesota, and here comes the cat. Well, he was getting ready to jump, he didn't. But he was at Germantown and said they had put up listening devices and like a monitor. So they must have been in there and something must have been going on because they had the tape up and they had these weird, like some kind of contraption put in. Why the hell would you do that at a park? It was any kind of a seismic thing, like there's a fault or something, but he thinks a clan or something had moved in there and they were monitoring what was going on.
They know. They so know. You know what I mean? They just hide it like everybody else does. And I think that is so uncool because that day that rock got thrown at me, guess what kind of firearm I had with me?
What?
A 380. Useless. That'd be like shooting it with a BB gun if I needed to. Not that I'm trying to shoot one, but I would if I needed to.
No. I carry 357, but I don't even know if that's enough. I hope to never use that. It's a last ditch, thing.
Right.
It's just kind of a false security actually, but yeah, I don't know, but they're there. They're moving around. They're using these creeks, even Inglewood Dam. Someone had mentioned they wouldn't show me where. They found it like a sort of a nesting looking site over by Inglewood Dam in Taylorsville Reserve, which runs up into Vandalia and the backside of Hooper Heights, Bridgewater Road and all that down in there. And the river's right there, like what you're talking about. There's been sightings there. There was George and I hiked back in there a few years ago, and they had a trail closed. They actually had tape across and said, and a sign that said trail closed, area resting. Well, we went up that way anyway, and there was a shelter back there. He goes, they closed this trail because it's wintertime now, and you could see that damn shelter. You couldn't see that in the summertime. They don't want people seeing that.
Mm-hmm.
And there is way more going on in our area than you think. And just like who Jake Dressel is?
Mm-mm.
He lives in Hooper Heights, and this also there was a night back in the summertime, and this is a good, oh my goodness, like 10 years ago. They are in that part of Hooper Heights. It's over out in the country, over by I can't remember the name of the road, but there's a BFRO a report where someone called the police because they couldn't understand why a guy would be wearing a fur coat in August in 90-degree weather, walking alongside the woods.
Are you talking about the Chambersburg Road report?
Yeah, down in there. But there's
Carriage Hill,
Epcot Road or something like that. It's got a yeah, down in there. But one night in the summer, something came out of that woods into this neighborhood, and a girl I work with, her name's Cheryl. That's all I'm going to say. You know, she was a skeptic. She thought I was crazy, and she actually called me and said, "Hey, I don't know what the hell is going on in my neighborhood, but what would be causing this?" And she went outside. Every dog in the neighborhood was going berserk. It was like a sci-fi movie, howling, barking, carrying on, scared. I mean, going underneath, kennels and stuff. And it was crazy. Something was going on. I think one of these things come up out of the woods that night into that neighborhood and freaked us out. And Jake had a sighting where this thing had come out. It was in it was a smaller one, and it had stopped in a group of there was a group of pine trees, and it kind of tried to hide in there, but it was seen by people. And that's coming up from that river. So yeah, they're
the Great Miami River.
Yeah,
so that's what goes up that way. And yeah, I've been watching, I've been tracking, and I don't know what is going on, but they must be in the area now because it was snowing before we had that little 60-degree stretch a couple weeks back. So for me to find that footprint, yeah, I was just thinking probably nobody was over there fishing or anything, and it was probably cut through where it normally don't and left a track because there hasn't been no people in there, probably because it was so cold. Remember, we went down below zero and stuff.
Right.
And then all of a sudden we get like 4 days of 60-degree weather, and here I go out hiking. What do I run into? Footprints. And I was like, no way, they're not here too. Why would they be here? I was thinking. And then I was like, oh, the dump. Plus there's fish here, there's deer here. And then of course, I come home and satellite view everything, and there's Possum Creek. And I'm like, here we go.
You are onto something. Keep up with that because you're correct in what you're thinking, because where Fayetteville, Ohio is, up 68. I went to a residence there just outside of that town where this thing had climbed her back fence and ran through her yard in pursuit of a rabbit because of the tracks. Snow was probably 6-7 inches deep. The tracks were like 16, 17 inches long with a big stride. But how I knew this lady was not lying. One, she was upset. Number two, and she was a teacher and kind of quiet. She didn't want a bunch of publicity, whatever. But this thing walked in a straight line. The tracks were in a straight line like a tightrope as it went through the yard. And even she was kind of in disbelief. She goes, why would this thing run through my yard chasing a rabbit of all things, and then run to the front part of the house where the street light was? And I said, if that happened at 2 or 3 in the morning, you got to be waking out there to see it. But when this thing crossed her fence, it actually braced itself and pushed down. She had a brand new she shed built. So this was new. It's not something that had been there and it's dry rotted or whatever. And when this thing pushed and used the sheet shed to go over this fence, it snapped one of the beams. And then big, like, not a railroad tie, not that big, but, about half that, snapped it. So, yeah, and if you're desperate and you're hungry, you're going to come in close to us to try to steal a meal.
That's what I'm saying. They're not in the forest. There is no forest right here, right around here. You know what I mean? These are cornfields with little patches of woods in them. That, quarter mile most of the time? Quarter mile worth of some trees, and they're here. They're here. And I keep finding stuff on accident. I am not a researcher. and I'm running into stuff.
That's all.
So, hmm so I'm just saying, they're on the tree lines. They're right here. And I'm going to get a picture of that fence and send it to you and see what you think, because it is literally brand new fence they just put up, and they put one around the waste treatment plant too.
Why would you put a
And
fence dump?
they have it all the way around it.
That's kind of odd.
Yep, all the way around the all the way, that whole corner. They put a whole new fence around it, a barbed wire fence, and it's not even been there long, and it is pushed out from the inside. And I was like, I keep saying something every time I go by it, and I'm like, what would cause that fence to be busted out from the inside? But which is on the wood side. There's a little patch of woods right there, where the police academy is and stuff.
Yeah, I know what you're talking about.
Mm-hmm. I forget that road. What's it called? Uh,
I don't know.
River. Is it? I don't know either. Vance. Is it Vance Road? I don't even know. All I know is it runs into Gettysburg.
That sounds kind of familiar.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, there was a sighting. I'll tell you this. This is from. I mean, the band's not like Metallica or something, but no offense. But the drummer for the band, Saving Abel,
Yeah.
their tour bus, they were on 75 in the wintertime, and it was below zero that day, and they were on 75, and it was like right near Piqua, and they looked over, and there was something dark. A dark figure had stepped out of the wood line for just a few seconds and then went back in the wood line. And he said this was like just after dawn. I mean, the sun hadn't been up that long, and he was like, who the hell is out here? It's below zero, and they weren't hunting because they didn't have any kind of orange or lime green shit on or anything, from my language. They were dressed, they were all like black, and he thinks that's what that was.
Probably. And then after I had that rock thrown at me, when I was leaving there, because I was terrified, but once I got in the car and I was going home and I was getting my brain together, like what just happened? You know how you have to cycle it and try to make sense of what just happened. When I realized what happened, because you have to have hands to throw a rock, and it wasn't a human, it wasn't a person that did it. When I was driving home, I was going, oh my gosh, they've been here the whole time. I've heard rock clacks in there. I've heard tree knocks in there. I've heard weird ass owls in there. I've heard really, really loud woodpeckers in there. That's not normal. I've heard some bird that sounds like it belongs in the Bahamas, not in Ohio. And I've also been, you could drive around in there because there's the dam and stuff, right? We were driving down that road where Valley View High School is. The school is. I think it's Manning Road. And it was like 2 or 3 o'clock in the afternoon. Tell me why 20 deer are hauling ass across from the tree line, across the field, the cornfield, and were just leaping across the road in front of us like something was chasing them.
Something spooked them.
Absolutely. But, I didn't think nothing of that till after I had a rock thrown at me. And then it all just came crashing back in my head like, oh my gosh. I've even heard whoops in there and made fun of it and said, man, somebody's in here been watching too many Finding Bigfoot shows. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And now I'm sitting here going, oh my gosh, was that one of those things whooping? Or was it a person that watched too many Finding Bigfoot shows? I don't even know. But I've heard that in there before. So, and I can't tell you how many times when you're hiking through there, let's say you're going to the old forest part, I can't tell you how many times it's so silent in there, and I never paid attention to it or linked it with Bigfoot until that day when everything went quiet. That old forest is always quiet. It's like all the birds and everything in there are shut off. It's just silent. And when you come up out of there, the birds and stuff come back.
Yeah, if it's quiet, you've got company.
I know. And so, anyway, and what's really funny is when I got on my channel, made my channel, and told about the rock throwing thing, tell me why somebody in the comments is like Germantown ? And I didn't even say where I was at. I just said around the Dayton area.
Oh.
This fella knew where I was at. And I was like,
Sounds
and
like
then he messaged
me too.
Yeah. he actually messaged me and told me to go down the hill from there and go hang out at Twin River. He said, just sit there. And I was like, okay. And I did. I have a couple times. And I'll tell you what, it's creepy as shit right there. I don't like it. I don't like it a bit. And I took a bigger gun. I took a bigger gun that time. So, yeah, I'm not going around there without a bigger firearm because that was awful.
Safety in numbers,
Definitely. Nobody ever wants to go hiking. I'm just like, sometimes go by myself, that's just the way it is. And I was going to ask you something else too. Oh, have you had anybody get a hold of you recently?
The guy writing the book for Preble County, I've been contacted by him. Then a couple Bigfoot conferences have reached out, and a couple libraries, but that's about it.
Okay. I was wondering if anybody reached out to you about a sighting in between like my area and your area.
No.
Recently? Okay.
I don't think
Do
so.
people contact you for that?
Sometimes, yes.
Okay.
A lot of times there's, on the internet, on the Ohio Night Stalkers Facebook page, I get people wanting to know specific areas, roads and stuff, which we don't talk about. But we actually had to sign an affidavit with the Edge of Appalachia Park Service. We're not allowed to divulge that. And then some of the areas are privately owned. So, of course, they don't want people driving back in there. But,
right.
But no, nothing like that as of yet. But every once in a while we get something.
Right. Nobody contacts me for it because I'm not a researcher, but I was just wondering if anybody had got a hold of you like, hey, I had a sighting, I was just wondering. Yeah. Well, I can tell you this. I know they're in the area because I've been walking that lake all summer and all fall, and that footprint was new. So I know they're here now.
Right.
You know what I mean? So I don't know. I'm not a researcher, but I'm fitting to be. I'm about to go.
I think you are. I think you are. I think you just don't think you've admitted it because,
Well, it's just that's what happens when something happens to you. I just got to know.
And that's really my story. Real in a Reader's Digest version. I watched all those shows growing up on Bigfoot, Loch Ness, UFOs. I think all that was great. Watched all that stuff growing up. Had no inclination to ever do it. Probably about 17 years ago, Channel 7 News actually talked about a Bigfoot sighting in Ohio, and I'm watching the news that night, and I thought that was the stupidest thing I ever heard. I laughed. I thought, freaking drunk idiot, probably a shadow kind of a thing. But that night I decided I worked like a third shift, like a late second part third shift thing. So I was up all hours. But anyway, I typed in one night, I got bored, and I typed in Ohio and Bigfoot, 2 words, and all this stuff popped up. And one of them was a BFRO website. So I clicked on that, and I clicked on Ohio, and I thought 1 or 2 reports would show up. Hell, this thing dropped down reports by different counties. I mean, I fell out of the chair because it was a sit-down computer back then, And I started going through the reports in the counties I knew or I lived in or used to live in. And I started reading the reports, and a lot of them made me laugh. And I thought, you're an idiot. There was probably a deer. That's probably your own shadow. But no, there was a few reports that kind of stuck out and grabbed you. And that's with me. And I decided to stick my head in the door on the whole Bigfoot thing. I didn't think nothing was going to come of it. I thought this would be a quick look in the door. Oh, nothing there. Shut the door and move on. That's not what happened. I freaking put my head in the door and I got sucked in. And
I'm on one.
And here we are. You're going through that now, all them years ago, and you just get sucked right into it. So, yeah.
I'm on one now, especially since I couldn't see it. I could hear it, but couldn't see it. And it definitely threw something at me. And then here I go somewhere else because I'm traumatized from my regular spot and find footprints. So I'm just like, okay, what's going on? So,
and That could be a different one, or that could be the same ones just in a different area. They may know you. They may
Oh
recognize.
no.
Yeah.
Please don't tell me that. That'll really freak me out.
And it's like your own animals know. Like when you drive, you pull
Oh,
away, your dog, your cat, it knows you're home. You know.
oh no.
Yeah.
I never thought of that. Oh
Hey,
gosh.
there's a girl with the long hair. You know. But yeah,
Oh god.
could be.
And both times I ain't doing nothing but frolicking in the woods, trying to reset myself. You know what I mean?
Is there
That's
any
all.
place you could leave a gift? Like if it's the same place you hike, maybe something you could leave that wouldn't necessarily be easily seen by someone else if they decided to hike the area, that you could stick in a tree or something, like a gift, food, little stuffed animals, something to where they would notice.
I don't know. I mean, I'm sure there's woodpecker holes in all those trees. You know what I mean? At least on the trail I walk, there's stuff. But I never thought of that either.
Or peanut butter.
I am just terrified to go back in there, to be honest with you. I haven't, uh, mm-mm,
Jar
mm-mm.
of peanut butter. That's Sibylla Irwin taught us that trick. You put those out because if a raccoon or something gets, or a squirrel or something gets into messes with a jar of peanut butter, there's going to be claw marks and teeth marks. You're going to know it's something like that. But if something unscrews the lid and scoops out of it, that's not a damn raccoon.
You're
And,
back to hands at that point.
yeah, and yeah, that's a good one. And we've done that to where we actually Mike put two-sided tape around one of the jars, identical, Peter Pan, whatever the brand was. We bought the same peanut butter. This one of the jars had two-sided tape around it, and set them right there. They notice, and I'm not saying Bigfoot knows what two-sided tape is, but they noticed the difference between one jar to the next. They knew something was off with this one. They didn't take it. They left it. They took the other one, and they took sticks and they set them at the base of that tree. They marked it. So they're aware. So you leave them a gift, if they're watching you as you hike through there, they'll know you left that. And maybe the next time you walk through there where you left the peanut butter, maybe they'll leave you something.
I'm just freaked out it threw a rock at me.
Yeah.
So I don't know if I want to be doing that. I don't know. I don't even know if I want to go back in there, honestly. I am freaked out over it.
With more people, I think you should go with more people.
That would probably be helpful in a bigger gun. Not again. Yeah. I'm not trying to kill anything, but I will if I have to.
We were talking about, yeah.
Mm-hmm. Basically, that's all. It makes me feel better because I sure didn't feel good with the little 380 in my backpack.
Before I'd have that, I'd rather have a thing of that wasp spray before a smaller gun, because at least you could spray something in the eyes.
You're right, because 380 isn't going to do anything but probably make something very angry.
I think the 357 would make them mad too. So,
anyway, but did you want to tell people where they can find you at on your socials?
Yeah, the only thing we really have is Facebook. It's Ohio Night Stalkers on Facebook. You can message us there, or leave comments, get a hold of us. My email is ohionightstalker@zoomtown.com. Message me that way. And it's just Night Stalker on the email, because I tried to do Night Stalkers, but it was just one too many letters for the thing. So
right.
Yeah, that's where you'd find me.
Well, I appreciate you so much for coming on and sharing your encounters and experiences that you've had, and sharing that audio. Those were really cool, especially the one that sounded like it was talking.
Yeah.
And
well, thanks for having me on. I really appreciate it.
And I would like to know when that guy gets done doing his voice thing. The guy that's, let me know about that, will you?
I will, and maybe we can all get together and do some searching around here, maybe, if you want.
Oh, yeah, I would love to do that.
Maybe get Adams County.
Oh, I am going to Adams County. Donna already told me I can come.
Okay.
I so want to go to Donna's, but I wasn't wanting to go there to look for Bigfoot. But I sure did want to go tra-la-la-ing through her her acres. You know what I mean?
Yep.
I just like being out in nature. It resets me, and you know,
Oh, I know. When we go down in there, the air is better. It's just I don't know. It's real peaceful. It just it's good for you. It's good for your soul.
it is, and that's all I've been doing, and I just keep running into things.
Yeah.
So I don't know what's up with that,
There's a
but I
reason.
do appreciate it. Yeah, I don't know what I've done, but I'm gonna be a whole lot more careful from now on. But anyway, I appreciate you, and I'll go ahead and stop this recording.
Okay. Good, because my battery's about dead anyway.